Okay, for you YouTube homies, we are doing our new updated tier list for the patch 7.0 with the Singularity. We're going to be doing it in order from Trapper down to the Singularity, starting from, the first killer to the last. And yes, that does help my watch time. But it's not just because of that, it's easier. And I like doing it that way. But I'll be leaving timestamps each below if you want to find your main or if you just want to skip to the Singularity like fucking half of you guys do anyway. Dude, just watch the video. It's fun. We get to talk, vibe. It's a good time. Come to the stream too. If you don't come to the stream, it's not as awesome. But, alright, we're going to get to the tier list now. Like I said, we're going to be starting with a Trapper Man. We're slapping him in the bottom of D tier. Trapper's at the bottom. Look, his add-on changes, kind of nice. He's got some good ones now. Anytime I see a Trapper and I'm playing Survivor, they're always just running double Eerie anyway, so I mean, it doesn't make that much of a difference. You'll see a Trapper with a Trapper bag, just straight up basement Trapper once in a while, but you never see the killer anyway because he's not that good. Tons of counterplay. Pretty much the rule of thumb when it comes to killers being strong is just how much counterplay they have. Trapper has a ton, especially for a coordinated team that's like talking to each other. So he's going to be sitting pretty much at the bottom. Next up, we got our buddy Wraith, who I'm going to be putting eventually. It's going to be in order, of my opinion. So Wraith is going to end up being towards the bottom of B tier. But he has such solid add-ons, such solid builds right now. All the meta perks can work really, really well on him. From Save the Best for Last to even Pain Res and stuff like that. It's fantastic. His add-ons just super reliable, not tough to use, just very good. So I think Wraith is pretty safe at the bottom of B tier. He can have trouble sometimes getting downs if people are taking a lot of hits and stuff. But again, you can run Sloppy. He has an add-on that puts Mangled on people so they can't keep healing up and taking hits and stuff like that. He's really, really good at hit and run. And when Boon's being nerfed and Medkit's being nerfed, it makes it a whole lot easier on him. He can shred the pallets out of the map really quick with Shadow Dance and stuff like that. It just goes on and on. He's just overall super solid. Doesn't have any maps that really make it horrible for him with the right add-on combinations and stuff like that. He can manage pretty much everywhere. So for that reason, I think he's pretty comfortable right in the middle of the pack. Next up, we got our main man, Hillbilly. He is adorable. I'm putting him in C tier, and I'm sad to do it because his kit really does shine on some maps. But there's some where it's just useless. You're an M1 killer who kind of, got abused, beaten with a stick by your parents, and then beaten with a stick by behavior. His add-ons can be okay. Also, at least they didn't nerf the double engravings. But at this point, he does still need a lot more love if they want to bring him up to speed with some of the other killers. I mean, the thing is, man, the amount of effort you have to put in to do well on this killer compared to someone like Wraith, and I'm not saying, Wraith takes no thought, but it's a little bit sad that he can be so limited depending on what maps you get on. Just based off RNG, you can be pretty much no power at all. You get a map like Larry's or something like that. Good luck, right? So for that reason, sadly, he's going to be in C tier. I do love Billy, though. I think Billy's super fun. I love Billy players. Actual Billy players. Millies are okay. They're okay. But, yeah, there's Billy. And then we got Nurse. I don't know if you guys need me to say this for, like, the 20th time. She is the best killer in the game. She will stay the best killer in the game unless they make significant changes to her or literally release the entity or God into the game. She ignores it's a no clipping killer. If you want the easiest wins as a killer, maining Nurse is probably your best bet. Simply because just getting up to that skill floor where you kind of have a little bit of muscle memory with her blinks, and then just you steamroll everybody. You steamroll everyone. She can use a lot of the meta perks. She can't get value out of Jolt anymore, really. Sloppy, but I mean, she has an add-on to make up for that. Overall, the exposed stuff did make a change to Nurse. She's not going to be using Devour, Starstruck, or stuff like that, which is nice, but I mean, let's face it, the killer's cheating. The killer is literally blatantly cheating. It's nothing like any other killer in the entire game. She just ignores everything, so. And then we got our boy Myers, who I'm actually going to put above Billy. Now, I said there's maps where Billy basically has no power. That's pretty much never the case for Myers. He has a little bit of a extra vault speed no matter what in tier 2, which is kind of nice. The main reason Myers is this high in my list is how disgusting some of his add-on combinations are. I mean, even Vanity Mirror Dead Rabbit is amazing. Then you look at the Tombstone, the Hair Bow, J. Myers Memorial. I mean, he has some add-ons that just make him so disgustingly good. Especially if a lot of these will bring map offerings and stuff like Vanity Mirror and stuff like that. And it is very, very strong. Having permanent wall hacks on everybody and being a 115 killer, plus, you know, whatever chase perks you want to bring, some slowdown. I think Myers is pretty underrated, honestly. I see a lot of people say he's just one of the worst killers in the game. If you're bringing some of those very strong add-ons, he is a fucking force. He is a force. And yeah, for that reason, he'll be in C tier on my list. Next up, we got Hag, who did get some nice love recently. The boon changes were huge for this killer. Also the med kits. And now flashlights can't burn her traps, which is really, really good. Still, it takes a long time to set up. Survivors can blast through gens now if you're not careful. She doesn't have one disgusting build that I've found on this killer that just makes her dominate. The killer can do amazing in pubs. I mean, if people aren't paying attention, calling you out where your traps are, harassing your traps from the start of the game, which a lot of survivors in Swift will do. I mean, you could turn a game around in a minute flat, similar to Oni could, but there's just still a lot of counterplay for Hag, especially if people are communicating, and I do try to keep these tier lists, comparing them to when people are playing Swift with strong stuff and stuff like that. It's only fair, you know, if we were talking about an average solo queue team, she'd probably be a little bit higher, but yeah, at this point, everybody knows what Hag does, knows what to look for. 90% of them run Rusty Shackles, and everybody knows that by now. And yeah, you know, a team communicating and harassing her at the start is going to make it really, really hard. Okay, next up, we got Doctor, who is also going to be in B tier. He also has some great add-ons, and I recently started using his electrodes more often because of a homie in the stream named Fur. Really, really, really good killer, actually. Really, really solid. You know, he has a million different builds that work on him, and Merciless Storm actually seems pretty insane in him, too. I think the killer is very, very good. The only weakness he has is some of these maps like Borgo, where there can be a lot of stuff chained together, and he can be kind of forced out of his power at some of these places where they could just keep W keying in between tiles and loops. Other than that, I mean, the killer is a lot of fun, and the amount of variety you can bring with this killer is ridiculous. I don't think there's another killer in the game that has the amount of very strong builds that can work on them as this guy does. It's crazy. I mean, skill check Doctor, gen blocking Doctor, stealth Doctor, anti-healing Doctor. It's pretty crazy, the stuff you can do that are just all really, really good. So I think it's pretty easy to say this killer should sit in B tier. And next we have Huntress, who is going to end up being at the bottom of A here eventually once we get this filled in a little bit. Now, it's not like old DBD where survivors were just kind of running around vibing like chickens with their heads cut off. People, anytime they know it's a Huntress and they hear that ding when her hatchet is fully charged, they're going to stop moving around obstacles. So even if you're running an aura reading build, you know, even solo queue survivors who have any clue what they're doing aren't going to let you get these nasty snipes, you know, even with barbecue, bitter murmur, anything like that. She can still do extremely well in chase. There are some funky hitboxes and stuff like Borgo still. She can chew through health stage. She's very good at playing scummy. And when I say scummy, I mean face camping somebody, which is, I think, going to be dealt with kind of soon. Slugging, you know, tuttling right off hook. I mean, she can chew through endurance and whatever she wants to really quickly, especially with stuff like Okaft, the Babushka. She has really, really good add-ons too. So for that reason, I think it's a pretty safe A tier. She has a couple maps that maybe her power's not as great on, but other than that, for the most part, she's super solid. Next up, we got Bubba, who is fantastic at shredding pallets, and it looks like the devs are in a zone where they love just adding tons of pallets to the maps recently. So Bubba's in a pretty good spot. He has a lot of perks that work really well on him. They're adding even more that work well on him. You know, can you imagine seeing a Force Hesitation Bubba with Tinkerer run at you off of Gen? That's something that sounds terrifying. I haven't seen it yet, but I don't want to. Great with Bamboozle. You know, if he can find one person on the team who's willing to throw some pallets right away, block one strong window with Bamboozle, even if it's a Swift, the map's going to be dry by the time they get 2 gens done, and then everybody's going down. The killer is extremely good at doing that, getting rid of resources and downing people fast. You wouldn't know it from a lot of Bubba players because they'll just do another strong thing that he's good at, than face camping. But he is also really good at that for now before they deal with the camping changes. So I think Bubba's a pretty safe beat here. Very, very solid all around. Really good insta-down. No extra mobility really or anything like that. But yeah, he is solid. Next up, we got the Fredster, who is going to be sitting there with Trapper in D tier. I actually thought about raising him up because his mobility is decent, but when you compare it to someone like Onryo's, especially a killer like Onryo who can bring the iridescent tape, which is just a silly add-on that refreshes your tapes for hitting somebody after you manifest. Refreshes your TVs, sorry. His teleport's not bad. The buff to pop is nice for him. It is really nice. But the nerf to pain res does hurt him too. I haven't played him really enough to see if there's any other builds that feel extremely good on him. The best ones I've tried, though, it's still Freddy. He has a decent chase power. If Red Paintbrush was a base kit add-on, the killer would be a lot better, you know, having a power at the start of the game rather than just having none at all until they fall asleep. It's kind of rough. I don't really like killers like that, especially when it's an okay power. It's not anything over the top, you know, like Oni, for example, who we'll get to soon. So, sadly, when you compare him to other killers and their add-ons and how they perform against, you know, coordinated teams, for me, he just sits in D tier. Okay, also, after Freddy, we have Pig, who kind of sits in the same boat with Freddy. The thing is, Freddy has much better mobility, and his chase power is better than Pig's. It is just better. Against a really solid team, the amount of people who are going to be taking hits against Pig and making it really, really hard for her to get a trap on it's going to happen a lot. If you see people really sweating to win, people are going to throw a lot of pallets. People are going to, you know, make it really hard for you to get that trap on to begin with, and that's pretty much her whole power. That's everything she's got going for her. Now, if you can't get that on, it can be a ton of slowdown, don't get me wrong. And, you know, the Gears add-ons can make it take a really long time to get those traps off, and if they're unlucky, just die to them. But, again, the ambush is pretty weak. She's had little tweaks to it, which make it just that much better. But even then, you know, you're getting maybe 1 or 2 ambush hits a game if the survivors are smart, and that's tops. It's just not enough reward for it. She is still kind of a cool character. I do like the idea of the traps to passive slowdown, kind of giving the survivors another objective to take care of. But getting survivors down on a map like Garden of Joy when they're on comms and stuff is a whole lot easier said than done. So sadly, she's going to be sitting around there. Next up, we got Clown. Now, here's the thing with Clown. This guy's got an add-on called Pinky Finger, which I think is one of the goofiest add-ons in the entire game. I don't think it should exist at all. They did nerf it again recently, which was good, so you can only have up to 3 bottles when you're running it. Running that with Gin Bottle is disgusting on this killer. It is impossible to go for a save on somebody if this killer has Pinky Finger. Literally impossible. So you have to run, you know, a ton of perks to counteract that. He does amazing with Save the Best for Last, Dissolution, Jolt, stuff like that. I've been trying that out a ton. The killer is actually extremely solid, not anywhere near as weak as some people think he is. I think a lot of people think he's really weak because they read the Clown guide. I think a lot of people think he's weak because of how simple his kit is. It is really, really, really simple and easy to use. So on the surface, it doesn't look that good. It's impossible to W key this killer. Impossible, just with the pink bottles alone. Throw on a yellow bottle on you. On top of that, it's not happening. You run a perk like Dissolution, they have to play around a pallet and break it for you. He is phenomenal. You know, making chases very fast. Still works with Pain Res, Deadlock, Jolt. Very, very good passive float on to help him control the map a little bit more. The killer's really solid. I wouldn't say he's better than Bubba, but he is very, very solid and not at all tough to get the hang of. Next up, we got Spirit, who is going right in the S tier. You already know. Dude, the add-on combinations you can run on this killer honestly disgust me as a person who loves the artist. Dude, Mother-Daughter Ring Yakuyoke Amulet is one of the most disgusting add-on combinations in the entire game for any killer. I might argue Blight has some gnarlier ones, but we'll get to that in a bit. Mother-Daughter Ring Yakuyoke Amulet is absolutely fucking disgusting. You're moving at the speed of light for no reason, and your power lasts 70% longer, and you get it back 70% faster. It is insane. Top that with, all our hits count as M1, so you can use Save, you can use Make Your Choice, Starstruck, Devour, whatever you want. And you can really, really make Survivor's life hell. I love the Hubris build on her. It is really, really fun. All you really got to do to get decent with Spirit is turn up the headphones a little bit and focus up, and you can destroy people and with not as much effort as pretty much any other killer below her. I mean, you compare it to like Huntress, it's not even close. So I think Spirit's a pretty safe S tier. Very, very strong killer. And works really, really well with the perks right now. There's not much a Swift can do against her if she's really playing to win, in all honesty. So, she's very, very strong. Next up, we got the Legion, who I'm going to put right above Wraith here. They have really good add-ons right now still. Mural Sketch, Never Sleep Pills, the Iridescent Button with Julie's mixtape, Enduring Spirit Fury builds and stuff like that. That can make them very good in Chase, actually. They can actually make Legion really, really good in Chase. It is easier to get everyone injured on this killer than pretty much everyone in the game. Even more easy than Plague, I think. Especially if you get a smaller map, like something like Coal Tower. It's extremely easy to get a 5th hit down. The only problem is, without stuff to really help them out, like those Enduring Spirit Fury and stuff, it can be really, really hard to get those downs at crucial times. Now, I want to go back to this point where how easy it is for them to get people injured. That doesn't mean it's super easy to get people downed. But what it does is it'll give the Legion the opportunity to proxy camp somebody on hook if they're in like a 3-gen setup or something like that. And with everybody injured, nobody can go for the save. They can't hook dive with everybody because it'll be a 5th hit right off the hook, right? There is a lot of little stuff in the Legion's kit that can make them really good. They have one of the best chase musics in the entire game, which has nothing to do with this tier list, but it is a banger. It is really, really good. You can mix it up and stuff. Great cosmetics, too. I mean, overall, Legion's just solid. I think Legion's one of the best killers you could possibly learn the game on if you're just starting out as a killer. Learning how people play injured and stuff like that. I think they're fantastic. So I think a solid B tier. And I can't really see any way I'd put them any higher than here. Next up, we got Plague, who's going to be really, really at the top of A tier for me. This killer is fantastic. So a lot of teams don't really know what to do in certain situations against this killer. And sometimes it's just impossible to tell exactly what you should be doing. People pretty much have to cleanse to go for their teammates off the hook. And then they're just getting infected again. So they have to cleanse again, just giving her power for free. And her Corrupt Purge is one of the strongest powers in the game. I mean, the amount of times I've ran this killer and ended a game with one use of her power, everybody on the ground is... I can't even count them on both hands. This killer is insane at getting downs super, super quickly if people aren't careful. It's a hard balancing act with this killer. You don't want to cleanse too much. You don't want to not cleanse at all because then she'll just be destroying everybody if she knows what she's doing. Insane add-ons from Eerie's down to green, and even some yellows are okay. Really, really, really solid killer. There's not too much, nobody's taking hits against the Plague in a Swift. She's just going to fully infect them right in front of her and down them without them getting a speed boost. There is a lot going for this killer. Stops heals a lot. Can have a lot of really, really strong gen control. Forcing people to get infected all the time. Very, very good killer. Very good. And then we got Ghostface, who, after I have attempted the 50 wins on Ghostface multiple times in a row now, We've played over 100 Ghostface games just in the past like 2 weeks or so. I think it's pretty safe to say against even an average Swift with very strong stuff, it is extremely hard to win on a killer with no chase power at all. So I'm going to be putting him in C tier. I think Ghostface has some of the best stealth in the game, but stealth doesn't fucking matter if one person sees you and tells the entire team exactly what you're doing. It doesn't matter. There are just things that he can't deal with, and that's very strong toolboxes and stuff like that. The killer is extremely fun. He has some okay add-ons. You look at an add-on like driver's license and you think, wow, that sounds amazing. And then you run it for 5 games and get value out of it one time on a gen with 10% progress. And you think, oh, I see why this isn't overpowered. So he does have some really good add-ons. One really nice thing is one of his best add-ons, in my opinion, is Philly, which is a brown add-on. So you'll just have 1,000,000 of those if you do choose to play this killer. That is nice. But again, without anything really to help you downing the people, besides hopefully sneaking up on them if they aren't paying super close attention or communicating, it's just really hard to put him higher than C tier here, sadly. But yeah, that's where we're going to put him. Next up, we have Demo. So Demo, I'm actually going to put above Huntress. And some of you guys are going to think I'm fucking nuts. Putting portals on a set of 5 gens or so on this killer, you know, you run Corrupt, slow down the game at the start, get your little web set up around the gens. He has an insane amount of mobility. He has an insane amount of info. He's got some really, really, really solid add-ons in yellow and brown that you'll just have unlimited amounts of. He can run Devour pretty much better than anyone in the game because of one of his add-ons, the Whistle add-on. Very, very, very strong. Obviously, Devour's insane. His chase power is very good once you get the hang of it and you know what tiles you can hit around and stuff like that. The best user of Save the Best for Last in the game, I've said it 1,000,000 times. It is fantastic on this killer. He is super slept on. I think the only reason people don't put him higher is because there's not that many demo players anymore because he's not in the game and people aren't getting super cracked with him. But he is very, very good. He has so many tools in his kit that can really push him over the top, especially with stuff like Pop now, you know, Pain Res, Devour. There's so many good perks on this killer. So many different ways you can play him. He's fantastic. It's super slept on, I think. We have Oni, who I'm going to put right under Plague here. We did a win streak on Oni. It was some of the easier games I've done, and I got to play like a saint pretty much every single game. I got to play as nice as I wanted to compared to other killers. I could just vibe out, relax, and when I wanted to turn it up, we could just win. The killer's that good. You get your power one time, you could win a game, you know, if they don't have unbreakables and stuff like that. He is fantastic. Really, really great mobility, insane chase power. Meshes super well with any build you want to run pretty much. Anti-healing, Pop Eruption, you know, Pain Res Pop, Corrupt, Monitor Infectious. There's so many different ways to run him and dominate that this killer's an easy A tier for me. Next up, we have Deathslinger. So I'm putting him right here, right under Hag. When we're looking at this tier list, I am including add-ons and stuff like that. First off, I want to say Deathslinger is also one of the best users of Save the Best for Last in the entire game. The Iridescent Coin add-on is absolutely disgusting. Double reload, the tin oil can, very, very good. He has some really, really solid add-on choices. Iridescent Coin is so disgusting, though. If you get a little bit of an open map, you could just win the game off of it, off one proc of it if survivors don't know it's there. Does really, really well with stuff like Starstruck Agitation, Jolt Pain Res helping him control gens, Deadlock, Corrupt, stuff like that. Obviously helping him out because he doesn't have that much mobility, but his chase power is so unreal, so disgustingly good. Dude, there's so many games. Sometimes I'll even run Slinger without save. I'll shoot somebody, reel them in and hit them. They W key away from me. I can reload and shoot them before they can get out of range. He is that insane. I get downs on this killer faster than Nurse sometimes, and I'm not kidding. I'm not saying he's better than Nurse at all. That's why he's in B tier. But the potential and the things this killer can do are super slept on. He has a lot of perks that can really help him out with managing the map so he doesn't have to do it himself. This killer is fantastic. Very, very good. Next up, we got Pyramidhead, who after running the win streak we've been doing recently, we're at 50 right now. I haven't continued it yet since then because the Singularity dropped like right after that. I think it's very easy to say he's high in A tier, mid-high A tier. Dude, the ways this killer can win a game are unreal. You get a decent map for you with some aura reads, like a Larry's with retribution popping. Dude, you're going to destroy people. He's the best tunneler in the entire game. And somebody coming up soon is also close there. Absolutely disgusting the stuff you can do. You know, if somebody gets tormented, that's an instant 2 hook states. You know where they're going to be 99% of the time when you cage them. That's an instant 2 hook states without them having any perks to counterplay that. No off the record, dead hard, stuff like that to even worry about. Very, very good. If people are trying to take hits, you hit both of them with your power. You hit both of them. He's that good. Very, very fun to use also with this power when you're getting those hits. It's super satisfying. I really do think he's good. If he had Spirit or Plague level add-ons, he could be at the top of A tier very easily, I think. And that's without any mobility. That's how good I think this killer is. He just has dog shit add-ons for the most part. I just ran double range every time and called it a day. But other than that, extremely solid killer. Very, very strong base kit. And I look forward to see what they're doing with him next. I heard he was actually getting a buff. So next up, we have who I think is the second best killer in the entire game, and that is Blight. I think we could all pretty much agree this looks fair at this point. And S tier. Maybe you guys disagree with stuff below it. I think S tier is pretty universally agreed upon. Blight has the most disgusting add-ons in the game, maybe outside of Mother-Daughter Ring Yakuyoki Amulet. I'm talking across the board. Compound 33, Iridescent Blight Tag, Alchemist Ring. He has an add-on that makes it so he's permanently stealthed while rushing, which nobody uses. That's how disgusting the rest of his add-ons are. He has Adrenaline Vial, which gives him 7 rushes, and they recharge super quickly. Double speed add-ons are disgusting on this killer. There's just so many things you can run. You can't really go... You could just throw on any of his add-ons and call it a day, and you're going to be having an easier time, pretty much. Except for that one brown add-on. But the problem I have with this killer is his base kit and everything about it. He is super fun and super rewarding to play. But the add-ons are so gimme some of the times, like Compound 33, for example, that there's no way we can't deal with that a little bit and make them less of just a straight-up gimme. You look at Billy's add-ons, okay, you know, you get a purple add-on that makes him rev up quicker, and then it slows him to a 110 killer. It doesn't make any sense how this guy just ignores pallets and everything on the map and moves at the speed of light. I just don't understand. I don't know. Anyway, Blight's super solid. Very, very good. If you have fun with him, play him. You're going to win a lot of games. It's going to be a good time. Next up, we got Twins, who I am easily putting into C tier. Again, against an average solo queue team, this killer's going to do just fine. You could even throw him in A tier if you want to against the average solo team. You can dominate with him. If we're talking about a squad who's really trying to win, who knows what they're doing on comms and stuff like that, running the right build, some unbreakable, maybe one we're going to live forever, it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a nightmare for you. Boons being nerfed do help a little bit. Medkits being nerfed do also help a little bit. So you can get away with slugging a lot of time. Again, there are a ton of perks that can help with that. And if they're running any of them, it's going to be significantly harder, especially with the comms and if they're doubling up and playing how they should be. There's so much counterplay to this killer, it's disgusting if survivors know what they're doing at all. I'm just going to go down the list of some of the ways people can play around the Twins. 1, they hold W away from Charlotte when she gets an M1, and once they're far enough away, they hop in a locker. Charlotte can't make it to the locker by the time they break out of it from Victor. They start running her like she's a normal M1. 2, they double up when Victor gets it down on somebody. The other person kicks him, and then they heal up their teammate before Charlotte can get there because it takes 20 seconds to wake up. Another thing that feels terrible is even when you're getting it down, when you're hitting your power, it's not rewarding half the time because if they're W keying away from you, it's going to take you 40 seconds to get to a hook if that's what your plan is. And at that point, why would you not just play something like Huntress where you could just down them and pick them up in 10 seconds rather than 30? It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know of a single other killer in this game that is punished so heavily for using their power and hitting their power as the twins are. It's actually kind of disgusting to me. There are times where there's going to be survivors who don't heal at all. They're in solo queue. They're just sitting on gens, whatever, kind of just having a fun time. And you'll destroy them for sure. But really against the team trying to win with the right stuff, you're going to get bullied. It feels really, really bad sometimes. So it's a pretty easy C tier for me. Next up, we have Trickster, who I hate a lot. I hate playing against this killer more than anybody in the game. Pretty much you're just on his screen and he's looking at you and you get injured or downed. If you're in an open map, you're going to have the worst time of your life. If you're not the one getting chased, all you're doing is holding left click on gens the entire time. Pretty much everything about playing against this killer for me is boring. That's enough of that rant. Let me get into why I think he's C tier. He has some decent add-ons. Some that are okay. I like the ones that ramp up his throwing speed faster. Those are pretty nice. You know, the shoes are obviously very good. But zero mobility. You're never going to be getting, covering a map like Mother's Dwelling. You're just not going to be able to do it. He can be okay at camping, still not as good as Bubba or Huntress or Legion or half the killers on this roster. Even Doctor, very, very good at camping with his shock. His chase power is good. There are a lot of tiles that can make it harder on you. If you get a decent map for you, you can down people fast enough that maybe you get 8 hooks before they get all the gens done if you're playing like a nice guy. That's how it is. Other than that, the killer, if you get lucky and people are all in the same area, you have main event up, you could shred them with some good aim. The main problem I have with this killer is it's not a lot of skill expression. The first couple knives you throw are pretty much dead on, and after that, there's so much recoil and like the knives kind of going side to side that it can be a lot of luck involved more than skill. And it's just if you have them on your screen and you're looking at them, maybe they go down. I don't like him. He's okay, but I can't put him higher than this. Next up, we got Nemesis. I'm gonna have to move the webcam here because B tier's getting filled up a little bit. There we go. Next up, we got Nemesis. Also extremely good at shredding pallets, like Bubba is. You do have to be hitting people 3 times. I really encourage people to not use save the best for last on this killer. I really, really do. A lot of people say they love it. The problem is once you get those vaccines out of the way, once people don't have any left, you are actually a monster in chase. They can't play around pallets or windows at all. They just die. Getting ramped up to tier 2 before the first gen pops is insane. When you hit tier 3, it is a nice little boost. The extra range is actually extremely nice. But that's the only problem with this killer. You have to get ramped up. Other than that, his chase power is fantastic. They do have a little bit of counterplay. The zombies AI now is better than I've ever seen it. It feels like whenever I'm playing Survivor against the Nemesis, the zombies are fucking carrying the guy. I'm not kidding. Yeah, they could be in the right place all the time now. They don't ever get stuck on stuff. Some of the add-ons for zombie speed are pretty disgusting too. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, I think he's really, really solid. Really fun power to use too. Maybe slight tweaks to some add-ons. Just the numbers bumped up a little more, like more infection from hitting a zombie. He could maybe be even a little bit higher. Next up, we have Pinhead. And I think some people will disagree with me on this. And I'm totally open to that. I think the box is one of the most disgusting powers in the game by itself. He has a very, very strong M2 already, which functions pretty similarly to Clown's, where it's like a massive slow for hitting it. It's also very fun to use. Taking one person out of the game repeatedly to deal with that box is very, very good, actually. And if you can get that box yourself 2 or 3 times in a game, you're pretty much going to win no matter what. He also has a disgusting add-on with the Engineer's Fang, which allows you to straight up injure people that are healthy by hitting them with a chain, which I think is fucking gross. If you have a survivor like Cornered and you use that on a tile, that is so disgusting. Yeah, again, his power is really fun to use. He does great with so many builds, Hex builds, Scourge Hooks, Pop, Corrupt, Deadlock. He has some of the best teachables in the game also across the board. Very, very solid killer. Yeah, the real thing with Pinhead's chase power is it does function really similarly to Clown and Doctor's, where his anti-loop can be very strong. But he can also have mobility, teleporting to people who have the box if they're death hook and they're grabbing the box and you want to get that person out of the game. You didn't know where they were. Boom. That's very nice. But his power is a lot harder to use than doctors or clowns, in my opinion. But he is really, really solid. If a Pinhead knows what he's doing, it can be really, really hard to win. Next up is our girl, the Artist, who I am putting... Normally, before now, I would have put Artist above Spirit every time. I think the Pain Res nerf hit Artist harder than anybody. It was just so fucking good on her with DMS. And it's still a fine perk. But now that it's a lot more limited and stuff like that, it can hurt you a little bit. You know, where it's not just Pain Res on demand. You got to think about it a little bit more. And sometimes it's just impossible to know what gen progress people have nowadays with the toolboxes they can bring. With the 35 fucking gen speed perks they can bring. It's impossible to know for sure. Which does suck a little bit. It does. But other than that, her base kit is still fucking amazing. She has a really good time with Deadlock and DMS combined now, which I've been running a lot. Solid, chill add-ons that aren't over the top like some of these killers right here. But, I mean, she can ignore everything on the map as well, just like Nurse can with her birds, hitting people from across the map, chasing 2 people at once. You guys have heard me say this a million times. The Artist is extremely solid. If they buff Pain Res a little bit back to where it was, I'd put her above Spirit again. But for now, this is where she's got to sit. Next up, we got Onryo, who is the user of one of the most boring playstyles in the entire game that I've ever seen on any killer. And it's not at the fault of Onryo players, really. I think it's at the fault of the devs for designing her this way. I think Condemn Onryo is the most boring thing I've played as a killer in this game and played against as a survivor in this game. I think it is horrible. I think the design, the idea of it was bad. The actual condemn factor giving the survivors another objective wasn't. The add-ons that they put to put this condemn playstyle in play where everybody's just slugging on this killer was fucking terrible. Ring drawing, stupid. Iridescent tape, stupid. I think it's dumb. I think it's terrible. That's my opinion. I think this is dog shit. Now, that aside, the condemn playstyle is pretty strong. It's pretty good. At the end of the day, she is just an M1 killer, so it's going to be taking time to down people no matter what. If they know what they're doing, if they have some strong stuff nearby, it's going to be hard. She doesn't really have a chase power. What she does have is the ability to straight up kill people, whether they've been hooked or not, if they make one mistake. If they're not managing their tapes well at the start of the game, they make one mistake, she'll just make sure they straight up fucking die, especially if she has saved the best for last. She does have still solid mobility, even that aside. It's not, you know, like Blight level, but it is solid mobility. Especially, like I've mentioned this eerie tape 3 times. It is a very, very good add-on that allows her to be even more mobile. Again, she is limited by having no chase power at all. And so, I gotta put her in C tier. Next up, we have Dredge, who we also did a win streak on. And I'm putting him right under Pinhead. Because his mobility is disgusting. Nightfall is... If they had just Nightfall permanently for this killer... He would probably be right behind Oni, but for now, I have to put him here. He has some really solid add-ons. The Hattie's Calendar pretty much makes locks on lockers not exist, which is fantastic. I hate those locks, so having that is awesome. Malfinger Skull, very good. I mean, he has really, really solid add-ons. Increasing the Nightfall duration is really good on the Broken Doll. Really, really good ones across the board that aren't stupid and game-breaking like Blight's. His chase power does have counterplay, but a lot of it comes down to mind gaming and seeing how survivors are playing that you can force as the Dredge a win on the mind game every time. Be very patient with your power. It's a lot stronger than a lot of people make it out to be. Very, very, very good mobility. Like I said before, you can get great use out of any M1 perk. Outside of stuff like maybe Starstruck, just because Nightfall makes him undetectable, so he has no terror radius. But Devour, Save the Best for Last, very, very good on him. You know, all the solid slowdown stuff. He can get huge value at a pop now too. The 30% off a gen is huge with his mobility. Very, very good. Something I'm going to try out myself. I think not putting Dredge in A tier is criminal, especially after I did the win streak and felt how strong he could be on a lot of those shitty maps. Playing on Cowshed and Garden of Joy 10 times back to back. I got a pretty good feel for this killer, and I think he's very solid. Next up, we got Wesker. All right, here we go. We got Wesker. I put him right under Oni, right here. He has great built-in slowdown, great info, really, really solid add-ons. Very, very strong killer. Great chase power. There's a lot of like little text and stuff people have spotted him too that bump him up a little bit. This is where I had him in my last tier list as well with the Skull Merchant. And I don't think it's changed. I don't think any of the changes with the boons or med kits or anything have affected that at all. The killer is extremely solid. He also has little weird stuff that can happen, like hitting 2 people at the same time, slamming them into each other, putting survivors in mend and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff this killer can do, especially if you're patient and know what you're doing on him. And he's really fun also. So I would suggest, if you don't like any of these really strong killers and you want to win, play Wesker. He's a good time. He has the highest pick rate in the entire game, and he's been disabled for a week. So it tells you how many people play him. He's fun. I personally do think with Wesker, they should make a slight change to his infection where after a survivor gets unhooked, if they're infected, it doesn't start building up for like another 30 seconds or so he can't tunnel so easily. Being able to hit somebody off the hook with your power, and they'll be 8% slowed in like 5 or 10 seconds after that, is absolutely ridiculous. It takes absolutely no skill at all. Even the newest DBD player could do something like that and have a really easy time getting an experienced player down because they're just 8% slower. He has really good add-ons also to help with that. Breaking up pallets with the iridescent, which nobody uses, but it is a thing. Overall, very strong killer, and I think he is a lot of fun. Next up, we have Knight. Here's another killer I have a slight problem with. He is very good. My problem with that is it takes so little thought on the killer's end for the reward that you get from it that I think it's just a really flawed design. He does a great job of controlling gens. Doesn't really have to put any input with the guards and chasing people. Can pressure multiple people at once like the artist can, just not quite as good. I've seen those assassins get an insane amount of downs against my teams when I'm playing Survivor and as the Knight, just by themselves, even without the Knight helping in chase. Like the assassins moving at 110 is pretty huge, putting people in mend and stuff like that. Very good. He does great with stuff like DMS, Pain Res, Mindbreaker. That little buff to his trail, making it so survivors can't see it after it's gone 10 meters, is actually fantastic. You can get people in chase with the guards pretty much whenever you want if you have the right info on the gens, and then go pressure something else. You know, you hook, like, listen to me. You hook somebody, you have DMS activated, you have some info of where people are on a gen, you send a guard there, it gets blocked, you go for the other person. All 4 people are pressured and not doing anything. That's insane for how little thought it actually takes to do something like that. He is still very good. Very good add-ons. Stuff to double up which guards you like. I personally, like I said, like the assassins. I'll run double assassins, stuff like that. Very strong. I can't see myself putting him lower. For the amount of... The sad thing is, for the amount of actual thought you have to put into playing this killer compared to some of these, I wish I did put him lower, but I think this is where he sits. Next, we got Skull Merchant, who I'm putting right above Nemesis. She has some add-ons that take her to another level in chase with haste and slowing survivors down, vaulting faster, breaking things faster. Easy info on the gens that you don't have to think about, which means you don't need a single info perk on this killer, and you probably never should bring one. So you could be stacking on chase, you can be stacking on slowdown. I recommend a mix of both, especially with add-ons like the geographical readout, which just... It's like Wraith's Shadow Dance, but you don't have to be cloaked. It's very good. Now, if she didn't have some of those add-ons, maybe I'd put her even lower. But those really do bump her up. And there's not that much survivors can do about her power. Now, if they want to take care of 3 of your drones at the same time, you're going to be moving at like 125 speed almost, which is hard for any survivor to deal with. Stack another chase perk on there, one of your other add-ons and chase on a drone, like 5% slower survivors, they're not getting away. I don't care who you are, you're not getting away. As simple as she is very strong. She has some great add-on combinations, great perk combinations, and she can actually be a lot of fun if you're not just sitting there 3-genning, in my opinion. So I'm going to put her there. Finally, we have what probably 50% of you clicked on this video for and probably just skipped to. If you skipped to this part, I hate you. I just want you to, I don't hate you, but still, you could have watched the whole thing. It's kind of fun. You know, I gave my opinion and stuff. Maybe you don't give a shit about my opinion. But then why would you click this video in the first place if you don't? I don't understand. Anyway, we're doing the Singularity. Well, I'm putting right after Dredge for now. So they did announce that they're going to be lowering the cases in the game to 4 from 5, which is a big change. It's a nice change for the Singularity. Also, it's going to be slowing down survivors when they use them, which means easier chases for you if they're using them in chase. His power is actually really fun when you get to use it. Some games I'm playing this killer, though, it can kind of feel like I'm getting waterboarded. Like, just the amount of people just running up with EMPs, even still after the first nerf off the PTB. With those future changes in mind, I think he's going to be fantastic. He has some pretty solid purple add-ons that I really enjoyed using. His add-ons aren't fantastic across the board, but the purples and browns to me stand out. And browns standing out is always a good thing because you're going to get a million of them. I wish they would have done maybe a little something also. Maybe this is just me nitpicking. But when you teleport to a survivor, getting some kind of killer instinct right away. Because weirdly, I'll like teleport to somebody, like I'll shoot them, and then they'll be like fucking behind me. And I don't even know how that happens. You know, if people are trying to take hits against you with this killer, the slipstream's going to spread. Now, obviously, teammates can come in using EMPs and helping each other out. But one nice thing is, once they're using up 2 of those or 3 of those, you can check your pods around and see what's going on in other places. And if you see another EMPs activated, you know what's going on. You can see gen progress. You might not be able to hear stuff. There's an add-on to do that, but I don't recommend it. You can see gen progress and stuff with your pods no matter what. You might not be getting teleports from the cameras, but the info is still very good, just like it is with Skull Merchant. Not the same kind of info, not hands off, but it is still very good. And I think when they do end up implementing that hot fix, he's going to be... This is where he's going to sit. Otherwise, right now at his current state, when I'm releasing this video, I'd probably put him somewhere around here. But with that hot fix in mind, I'm going to put him right under Dredge. I think he's going to be a ton of fun. Really cool killer to try and learn, and little placements for his cameras and stuff like that. And yeah, that is going to do it for this tier list, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'm really curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on the new killer and maybe your main killer if you skipped around to that in this tier list. But either way, I will catch you guys in the next one.